While waiting for Wave 2's reveal trailer, it almost seemed like Nintendo completely forgot about it. But this time, faster than ever, Nintendo said, hey, remember Wave 2? Well, here's Wave 3, and uploaded a reveal trailer for Wave 3 just over a month after the release of Wave 2. Okay, well, it was only for 2 tracks, Merry Mountain and Peach Gardens, but it was still really surprising nonetheless. Well, at least for me. People were stoked to see these 2 tracks make a return in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, especially because Nintendo put even more effort into these tracks. Proper anti-gravity implementation, amazing graphics, and fantastic remixes. It's all there. Then on November 21st, the next reveal trailer came out, revealing all 8 tracks, along with the release date being December 7th. The trailer looked phenomenal and got people hyped up more than ever before for the next release of the Booster Course Pass. And rightfully so. I mean, Maple Treeway, Merry Mountain, and freaking 3DS Rainbow Road. This course selection looked like it would be the best one so far. So today we're going to take a look at Wave 3 of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, and I'll be sharing my opinions on this wave all the way from the track selection to stuff like the graphics and music. And once again, at the end of the video, I'll predict the upcoming 8 courses for the upcoming Wave 4. Kicking off the Rock Up is Tour's London Loop. Looking at the minimap, you can already expect this track to be a wild one. And, well, I'm not lying, right? This track resembles London really well. Driving on a tower bridge, next to the Big Ben, and even a little park with a chain jump that does not mess around. The chain jumps even go on the loose in the final lap. This track is great, and definitely better than all other city tracks so far, and even slightly better than Berlin Byways in the same wave. Next up is GBA Boo Lake, and man, this track looks really spooky. The vibe of the track has been transferred over from Mario Kart Super Circuit perfectly, and not only that, but the track layout is very faithful to the original, and only improved in this version. Right, Sky Garden? The track also includes the very first underwater section in the pass, and also properly implements anti-gravity, unlike Sky High Sunday. This track can also get pretty damn intense sometimes, especially on 200cc. Next is 3DS's Rock Mountain. This track is just good. I don't really have a lot to say, to be honest. Nothing has really improved, apart from this obvious anti-gravity section. But you know what they say? Don't fix it if it isn't broken. And while Rock Mountain isn't the most interesting track, it's definitely not a bad track at all. The long glide is still ever so satisfying, and the steep hill with the boulders is really fun to drive up. Overall, a pretty good track. And ending off the Rock Up is the ever so wonderful Maple Treeway. I was worried that they were gonna ruin the aesthetics of this track by directly copying the graphics from Tour, but oh boy, I was wrong. The track not only looks phenomenal, but also plays really well. The inclusion of the half pipes is much appreciated, as well as the many leaf piles across the track that release mushrooms, which is a very nice touch. The track is still a wavy goodness, making it pretty difficult on 200cc, which I quite like. Overall, Maple Treeway is still a fantastic track, just like it was in Mario Kart Wii. And overall, the Rock Cup is a very nice cup. Definitely the best one so far, and it only gets better from here. Let's just move on for now. Starting off the Moon Cup is Tour's Berlin Byways. Just like London Loop, it's a madhouse compilation of 3 laps, and the minimap looks insane once again. Driving past the Berlin Wall with the giant wombs and some very nice graffiti, and of course you have the Bahnhof and the driving cars and buses that constantly get in the way. You can even bump into racers from the side in the second lap. That's how ridiculous these track layouts are. Next is Peach Gardens, one of my favorites from the DS, and the remake in this game definitely does not disappoint. The chain jumps are still as hectic as ever, and the giant piranha plant near the end is a very nice addition. The track is, weirdly enough, easier than the original because of the removal of some of the garden areas, which is a bit unfortunate but definitely not a deal breaker for me. The track even makes you drive backwards for the final lap. Like, what? That was by far the most surprising thing about this entire wave. Next up is Merry Mountain, and holy shit, this track looks incredible. Graphics aside, this track delivers on the layout and definitely on the chaos side of things as well. Driving on the railroad, down a huge slope with spin boost pillars, and looking at the beautiful sunrise in the background. This track just feels really magical and a lot like Christmas too. The track is a little bit on the short side, but it's still amazing and really fun as well. And finally, we have the almighty, ever so heavenly 3DS Rainbow Road. Holy crap. This track looks not just phenomenal, but like the definition of heaven itself. This track is still just as good as it was on a 3DS, and arguably even better because of the graphics and the anti-gravity. Driving on the moon, on Saturn's rings, I don't need to explain, we all know this is one of the best tracks of all time. Overall, I am extremely pleased with every single one of these tracks. The track selection of this wave is by far the best we've seen so far. No crappy Toad Circuit or extremely mediocre Mario Circuit 3. All 8 courses are great picks and super fun to drive across. Not to mention that half of them have properly built-in anti-gravity sections, and even the very first on the water section in the pass for Blue Lake, which is absolutely incredible. So, let's talk about the graphics. And I mean, I think we all already know what I'm gonna say here. The graphics of Wave 3 are phenomenal and look insanely polished. For the most part, we'll get to that in a second. The city tracks both look great. The overcast weather from London Loop helps set the mood of the track really well, and while Berlin Byways does look a tad bit generic, it doesn't look bad at all. Okay, well, the road looks pretty repetitive and the detail is a bit artificial, but that's besides the point. Then we have Blue Lake, which also executed the vibes perfectly, as I already talked about before. The huge spooky mansion in the background is still there, and looking better than ever before. And the atmosphere is just really well done. The road looks a bit flat, but hey, I am not gonna complain, the track looks great. It's quite sad that Rock Mountain doesn't look the best, which is especially a shame considering it's the only track in this wave that looks subpar. The Rocky Mountains look pretty plasticky and much like Toad Circuit, which is obviously not a good thing. The track doesn't look horrible, but it's definitely the worst looking track in this wave. I definitely cannot say the same thing about Maple Treeway. Man, this track looks gorgeous. Autumn-themed tracks are always some of my favorites aesthetically, and this track does not disappoint in that department at all. The wood looks realistic, the colors are not overblown like in Mario Kart Tour, and the environment just looks so vibrant and so calming. I get chills whenever I play this track. Peach Gardens looked great from the very first trailer, and it still looks amazing at release. The hedge statues look really good, and the majority of the track looks on par with the base game, which is definitely a good thing. The same can be said for Merry Mountain. This track looks freaking ridiculously phenomenal. It's not really the biggest surprise ever considering it always looked pretty good in Mario Kart Tour, but it manages to look so much better in this game, which is incredibly impressive. And of course, 3DS Rainbow Road. I mean, do I really need to say more? Like, just look at this. Look at it. I think it really speaks for itself. Now, let's talk about the music, and damn, these tracks go hard. London Loop and Rock Mountain have a nice rock metal hybrid tone to them, which I really like. Especially London Loop sounds really good. Blue Lake sounds really spooky, which is, well, fitting to say the least. And then the song does a complete 180 flip and throws in a full-on drum beat and goes buck wild with it. Like, I don't know what's more surprising, Peach Gardens going backwards or Blue Lake turning into a legit banger. Maple Treeway sounds really more cute than anything else, and while this is my favorite song ever, I do still really like it. It still has the vibes the original had, and the live performance from the band sounds really great. Peach Gardens is yet another track that just sounds really nice. It's not my kind of thing, but I can definitely appreciate the high quality of the band's performance. It really does not go unnoticed. Merry Mountain is probably my least favorite song from this wave, or definitely one of, but that doesn't say much considering I still like it quite a bit. All I can really say is Santa Claus is coming to town, right? And finally, 3DS Rainbow Road. I mean, do I really need to elaborate on this one? Is it as good as the original? I have absolutely no clue at all. They both sound amazing and super nostalgic, which, if a song manages to pull that off, it automatically gets a like from me. Overall, the soundtrack from Wave 3 is really good. As good as Wave 1's OST, I still don't think so, but it comes very close. Now, finally, let's take a look at the predictions for the upcoming wave. But before you predict the upcoming courses, let's look back on which courses I predicted for this wave and see how many I got right. My predictions were as following: Tour London Loop, Wii Toad's Factory, GBA Sunset Wilds, 3DS's Rock Mountain, Tours Vancouver Velocity, GameCube's Mushroom City, Tours Merry Mountain, and 3DS's Rainbow Road. Out of these predictions, I got a total of 4 out of 8 correct, which is definitely not too bad at all. Now let's start at predicting the courses for Wave 4, and this time without knowing about any potential leak. Maybe by the time this video goes online there has already been a leak, but I'm writing this part of the script on November 21st just to be safe. The cups we're gonna predict are the Fruit Cup and the Boomerang Cup, so let's begin. For the Fruit Cup, I'm predicting Tours Amsterdam Drift, Wii's Toad's Factory, DS Airship Fortress, and here's where it gets interesting. In Wave 2, there were not only returning courses, but also a brand new course, being Sky High Sunday. Many people have been predicting another new course to make an appearance in Wave 4, and not just any new course. There has been a pretty big leak quite a while ago, which could suggest what Nitro courses we can expect in the remaining waves of the pass, based on findings in the game's files. One of these possible new tracks being a track inspired by Yoshi's Island. Boy, can you imagine how beautiful this track could look like? It could maybe even slightly resemble some of the secret stages from Mario Sunshine. Plus, it would fit perfectly in a Fruit Cup, considering it's a Yoshi-themed track. Anyway, let's quickly talk about the other 3 courses I'm predicting for this cup. Amsterdam Drift is a great city track for Mario Kart Tour. It's set in a beautiful location of the Netherlands' capital city, which is also the country I live in. Driving across the tulip fields, mills, and the interesting buildings like the Rijksmuseum. It's a good time. Toad's Factory is a golden classic from the Wii. A lot of people actually predict DK Summit instead, which is probably more likely to happen, but I'm still holding my hopes up for Toad's Factory. Driving across conveyor belts, carrying item boxes, huge hydraulic presses, and it's got one of the jazziest music pieces in Mario Kart history. You really cannot go wrong. Then there's Airship Fortress. This is one of the best from the DS, if not the best. It's based on the well-known airship stages from Mario Bros. 3, with a bunch of rocky wrenches, burners, and crates all hindering you along the way. The track also reappeared in 7 and Tour, and the track looks pretty damn amazing in Tour. And of course, there's the Yoshi's Island track. There's plenty of videos on this topic discussing possible course layouts and ideas, so I'm not gonna go over any ideas here. Let's just hope that if it is a Yoshi's Island themed track, it will at least sufficiently resemble the game. And then for the Boomerang Cup, I'm predicting Tours Singapore Speedway, GameCube's Daisy Cruiser, GBA's Sunset Wilds, and Tours Los Angeles Laps. Singapore Speedway is quite frankly a gorgeous track for Mario Kart Tour. It's also one of the more unique ones with water spouts, conveyor belts with trick ramps on them, and a pool on a freaking roof. This track just has to return. Daisy Cruiser is one of the best from Double Dash. It's set on a damn cruise ship. Need I say more? It also reappeared in Mario Kart 7 as well as in Tour relatively recently. These games even let you drive underwater and have a flooded engine room, which is incredibly cool. Then there's Sunset Wilds. In my opinion, and seemingly a lot of others, a pretty underrated track from Super Circuit. Does that still make it underrated? Ah well. The track basically revolves around one gimmick, being the time of day changing for each lap, from sunset all the way to nighttime. This track was also in Mario Kart Tour, however, just like with Sky Garden, the layout has been stripped down quite significantly. Let's just hope that when this track does return, it will be a little bit more faithful to the original. And finally, Los Angeles Laps. This was always quite a remarkable track from Tour, because of the fact it takes place during sunset. Driving along the coasts of Los Angeles and the suburban city feels really peaceful for some reason. The track also looks pretty good due to the sunset setting and the vibrant color palette. Overall, I think Los Angeles Laps will make a return in Wave 4. Anyway, that was it for this video. I will continue to have a lot of enjoyment playing Wave 3. This was a phenomenal experience that I'm glad Nintendo didn't ruin. Let's hope that the second half of the pass will be the same. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and do all that fancy stuff, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye!